All right, chapter 19. Okay, so now we're all talking about nutrition. So, give me one second. Find the Nutrition. Okay, so okay, nutrition. Okay, so first of all, if you boil down nutrition onto one big number, that number is calories. Okay, when we talk about calories, what we're talking about are actually kilocalories, or one like calorie with a big C. Okay, those are actually 1,000 little calories. Okay, one little calorie, one small c, is the amount of energy required to raise 1 gram of water or 1 milliliter of water 1 degree. 1 kilocalorie is the amount of energy required to raise 1 liter of water 1 degree. Okay. Okay. A 1 gram of carbohydrates or 1 gram of protein has about 4 kilocalories or 4 big calories. Okay. 1 gram of fat has 9 kilocalories. Okay, so it's more than double. So fat is a very, very high nutritional density material. Okay. All right. Uh, so metabolic rate, okay, is measured by the amount of heat generated or the amount of O2 consumed per minute. And usually that's the easier way to measure it. So you just see how much oxygen you're breathing in. Okay. Um, okay. Body temperature is an important factor because we spend a lot of our energy actually regulating our our body temperature. Okay. Um, the basal metabolic rate is measured by O2 consumed by a relaxed, awake person at a comfortable temperature 12 to 14 hours after eating. Basically, this is how many calories you would burn if you're kind of plopping on your couch watching TV. Okay. It is affected by age, sex, body surface area, and thyroid activity. Okay. Okay, depending on physical activity, it can range from 1,300 calories to 5,000 calories. The average male is about 3,000. The average female is about 2. Okay. All right. So weight loss, if you want to think about it, is pretty simple. You have to burn more calories than you take in, but it is not that easy. Or it is that easy. It's just hard to get there, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Okay. Um, so okay, and here's the uh, calories burned, etc., etc. And obviously, the more you weigh, the more calories you burn for different exercises, especially when you're doing against body weight. Okay. Okay. Anabolic requirements. So not only do we need food for energy, we also need food for carbon and the things that are provided, okay, in the food in addition to energy, okay. Food also contains raw material to build DNA, RNA, protein, triglycerides, etc. Okay. The turnover rate, the rate at which a particular molecule is broken down and resynthesized. Uh, Protein, 115 grams a day, fat, 100 grams a day. Okay, so most fatty acids and amino acids are produced by the body, so we can the turnover, we can recycle a lot of that. A few of them cannot be produced by the body and thus must be obtained in a diet. For example, in proteins, they're called essential amino acids. Okay, there are also essential fats that our body we need to absorb a little bit of. Omega-3 being the most common one you've heard, probably. Okay. Okay. The essential nutrients, so 9 essential amino acids and the essential fatty acids, omega-6 and omega-3. Okay. All right. Vitamins are small organic molecules that serve as coenzymes, and they must be obtained in a diet because we don't make enough, we just don't have enough. Okay, so vitamins break down into two groups, water soluble and fat soluble. If it's fat soluble, we can store them in fat, so we don't need them every day. If they're water soluble, we do need that amount every day. Okay, so you can see the B vitamins here, okay, and vitamin C, okay. I'll talk about these antioxidants in a little bit. They'll bring it up again, but antioxidants are important. Okay. Okay. Fat soluble vitamins, vitamin E and K, and they can be stored. Again, vitamin E is an antioxidant as well. Vitamin K is needed to make clotting factors. Vitamin D is needed for calcium reabsorption, and vitamin A is used in rhodopsin, your eyes and stuff. Okay. Okay. So here you can see where you get stuff from. Okay. Okay. Minerals. Okay. So vitamins are organic, minerals are inorganic, but again, they're the same thing. We need a little bit of them, each of them. Okay. So a lot of these things we recycle, okay, but we lose some, so we have to gain it back. Okay, sodium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, calcium, chlorine, we need in larger amounts, especially sodium, potassium. We need trace amounts of iron, zinc, manganese, fluoride, copper, chromium, etc. Selenium. Okay. So here, so this is a really long chart. So if you want to figure out what line you are, and then you can go see how much of whatever vitamin you need, etc., etc. Okay. Okay. Vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Okay. These deficiencies are rare outside developing nations unless there's some other effects. Okay. And so we know like a lot of these things already, and we know kind of like what they do, and we add it to food. Like vitamin D is routinely added to milk. Iodine is routinely added to salt, etc., etc., etc. Okay. 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 Free radicals and antioxidants. Okay. Um, okay. I don't know why it's doing this. What? Okay. I don't know why. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about this. I think there's a glitch. Okay. Free radicals are molecules with unpaired electrons. And so what happens when you breathe in oxygen? Okay, oxygen, obviously we need it to function, but oxygen in large amounts is also slightly toxic. Okay, so they oxidize things, and by oxidizing things, they form ROS, as reactive oxygen species, and that that is a free radical, and so the radicals indicated by the dot, these dots are single electrons that float free, and they tend to attack everything they attach to, and so they can cause serious damage, especially if they attach to your DNA. Okay, and so we have to remove reactive oxygen species, and the things that do that are called antioxidants. Okay, so antioxidants remove reactive oxygen species. Okay. Okay. So we have antioxidants, catalase, superoxide dismutase, glutathione peroxidase, glutathione, vitamins A, C, and E. Okay, and if there's too much reactive oxygen species, we have cell death, diseases, aging. In fact, if you think back to microbiology, okay, there are anaerobic bacteria that can't deal with oxygen. They can't deal with oxygen simply because they don't have any antioxidant defenses, and therefore oxygen is toxic to them and kills them. Okay. All right. Okay, so free radicals and antioxidants. So too many free radicals can cause oxidative stress by damaging proteins. That's okay, not that big a deal because we replace our proteins all the time. We can't replace our DNA. Okay, we can fix the damage, but every time you try fixing the damage to DNA, you run the potential of it not being fixed right. Okay, and so this promotes cell death, degeneration that's associated with aging, cancer malignancy, inflammatory diseases, cardiovascular diseases, neurological diseases. That's why vitamins A, C, and E are actually critically important. So A and E are water soluble, and so but C is or fat soluble. C is not, so you have to take vitamin C every day. Okay. Okay. So vitamin C and E, what they actually do is they pick up unpaired electrons. In fact, they actually work together. Vitamin C is water soluble. Vitamin E is fat soluble, and they actually work off of each other. Okay. Okay. Energy reserves are molecules that can be used for energy. So glycogen and fat are good sources. So glycogen is basically sugar condensed together, stored in the liver. Glycogen is not very water soluble, which is good, which means it's packed tighter. Okay, and then fat is super not water soluble, so it is packed very tightly. Okay, proteins can be used in case of emergencies. The source of proteins are body proteins, not dietary proteins. I'll explain what that means later. The molecules from energy also come from food we eat. Okay, once in the bloodstream, fatty acids, glucose, amino acids are circulating energy constructs. So when we eat the dietary proteins, we break them down into amino acids, and they get made into body proteins. And when we need them, we try very hard not to break down protein, because breaking down protein, one, is hard to get. Protein is a hard source to get. Two, if we break it down, we actually have a lot of toxic byproducts like ammonia that we have to get rid of. Okay, So we try to burn sugars and fats first. Okay, so tissues have preferred energy resources. Your brain functions primarily on glucose. Okay, it can be diverted to use ketone bodies, but its first choice is glucose. That's why people on the ketone diet, like one of the things I worry about is your brain function. Okay. Okay. So here you can see the energy reserves. Okay. Okay. Um, the regular functions of adipose tissue. Okay. Uh, there is actually there are mechanisms that defend a set amount of adipose tissue. The defend about changes in metabolism to match incoming calories. So, eating less is great, but you would think eating less will make you lose calories, lose weight, but you compensate for that by being lazier. Like you have less motivation to move, so it actually matches the kilocalories you're burning. Okay, that's one of the things that makes it difficult to lose weight. It's not just you eating less; it's you eating less and maintaining the same amount of exercise or increasing the amount of exercise you had before. Okay. Okay. Adipose tissue development, some appear in embryo, but increases greatly after birth due to mitosis and differentiation of free adipocytes. Okay. Uh, okay. The endocrine functions of adipose tissue. Um, okay. Tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNF alpha, is made in obese people with enlarged adipocytes. TNF alpha reduces the ability of skeletal muscles to remove glucose, okay, from the blood in response to insulin, and that makes it harder to uptake sugar and makes it harder for you get tired faster, etc. Your skeletal muscles, so you don't do as much exercise, etc. And that actually promotes insulin resistance. So again, blood sugar ends up being higher, and because your skeletal muscles aren't sucking up the sugar, the sugar stays, and then you need a heavier dose of insulin to get your non-muscle cells to uptake the insulin. Okay. All right. Leptin. Okay. Um, are also produced. Leptin is a hormone that's made in fat, especially in obese people, it can lead to insulin sensitivity, etc. Okay. Leptin is secreted in proportion to the amount of stored fat. Okay. Um, so it has a role on the immune response. Okay. So people who are starving have reduced immune activity. Um, just like people who are highly stressed on cortisol have reduced immune activity. And that's because you fighting off diseases costs energy. So if you're already low on fat, then you may not want to spend that much energy fighting diseases. Okay. All right. Regulates reproductive stresses via the hypothalamus. So a woman with low body fat will not ovulate or menstruate, and we see that in like professional athletes, especially young gymnasts. Okay, because every ounce of fat on a young gymnast, like especially like the professional ones, it shows, and it's, and it plays a role in their sport. Okay, and therefore they have this whole body system where they're not, they're super skinny, super thin, and stuff like that. Or most of them are. Some of them are not. Some of them are great, but a lot of them are super thin and have very low amount of fat, and to the point where they don't even menstruate or ovulate. Okay. Okay. Um, okay. So again, the same thing. Puberty and menstruation cycles are similar, related. So if there's not enough leptin, that means there's not enough fat. If there's not enough fat, you don't have energy to go into puberty. Okay. And I think I explained this in an earlier chapter. I forgot which one, but um, the access to nutrition is what speeds up puberty, and that's why people nowadays are hitting puberty earlier than they were 100, 200 years ago. They're getting at more adequate nutrition, especially in terms of protein and fats. Okay. Okay. Obesity is a great risk factor for cardiovascular disease, diabetes, some cancers. Okay. Um, so there is the high waist to hip ratio. It is better to be pear shaped than apple shaped. Okay. So the risk is greater if visceral fat is accumulated rather than subcutaneous fat. Okay. All right. Okay, so obesity in childhood is due to increasing number of size of lymphocytes. So, obesity in adulthood occurs to size alone. When weight is lost, the lymphocytes get smaller, so they lose some of the fat, but they don't actually go away. Okay. Okay, so you can see the increase in childhood obesity and the tenfold increase in type 2 diabetes. So to put it another way, type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes because only adults really got it. It can't be called type adult onset diabetes anymore. Children are getting it. Okay. Okay, so your body mass index, or BMI. Okay, so BMI is a great off-the-cuff measurement. It is not a particularly accurate measurement for certain groups of people, in particular athletes. Okay, um, so a BMI of 19 to 25 is healthy. A BMI of 26 to 29 is overweight, and a BMI of over 30 is obese. Okay. Okay. Metabolic syndrome refers to a group of symptoms associated with obesity, insulin resistant type 2 diabetes, impaired glucose tolerance, hypertension. Okay. Okay. Um, uh, Ventral medial hypothalamus lesion cause overeating. There's this disease called Prader-Willi, that basically you eat as much as you want and you never feel satiated. Okay. All right. This stuff you can read on your own. Okay. So your hypothalamus does a lot to control obesity. Okay. Um, ghrelin is secreted by the stomach when it's empty, so it stimulates hunger. Okay, so as you reduce ghrelin, you lose the hunger pains. Okay. Okay. CCK, peptide, polypeptide Y. Okay. Okay. Neuropeptide Y. Okay. So many obese people have reduced sensitivity to leptin, and that means if leptin reduces hunger, then obese people have reduced sensitivity to leptin, so they eat more. Okay, and so it's a positive feedback loop for a very negative thing. You get more and more fat because you're responding to the leptin less and less. Okay. Okay. Nope. All right. 1 second. All right. So caloric expenditure, the 3 components. There's a basal metabolic rate, or BMR. That's the energy used at rest at about 28 degrees, 12 hours after eating. That's 60% of caloric expenditure. So you burn 60% of your calories no matter what. If you're sitting on your couch doing jack shit, and you'll still burn calories, since you still have to maintain your body temperature, you're still making enzymes and all of this stuff. Okay. Okay. So adaptive thermogenesis, energy expended to adapt to changes in ambient temperature and the absorption of food. That's about roughly 10%. And then physical activities. Okay. Okay, adaptive thermogenesis. Cold promotes cutaneous vasoconstriction and shivering. Shivering is the movement of muscles back and forth, and that burns a lot of energy. Okay, non-shivering thermogenesis. Brown adipose tissue has mitochondria that produce heat instead of ATP. Unfortunately, brown adipose tissue is only in really high amounts in newborns. Okay. The thyroid fatty food, feeding increases metabolism. Okay, it's regulated by the brain via the sympathetic adrenal stimulation of skeletal muscles and the thyroid hormone. Okay. So unfortunately, what happens is we increase energy expenditure. We generally set the bar on the way. Okay. 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 So absorption of energy carried from the intestine fluctuate. So obviously, when we absorb nutrients, there's an increase in energy, and then in between there's none, but the plasma levels of energy carriers stays within a homeostatic range. Okay, and these are the hormones that control that. Okay. So metabolism is always anabolism, building of stuff, and catabolism. Okay, these things promote anabolism. These things promote catabolism. Okay. All right. We'll stop right here. I'm gonna pick this up for part 2.